Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Recall Knowledge. Recall Knowledge, if you're new here, and it's kind of a new series we're doing, but if you're in the future and we're like 72 episodes in, you already know what you're getting yourself into. Recall Knowledge is NVNG's chat with a few of my other friends and game masters. I've played with each one of them. They've all GM'd for me, and I'm currently GMing for them. So basically, Recall Knowledge is where we sit down and talk about hot button issues in our industry and in the hobby we love, and that hobby is tabletop role-playing games. So tonight I'm joined by GM Fabio.
Hey.
And GM Steve.
Yo.
You know who I am, GM Jared. So the topic for Recall Knowledge is to kill your players or not to kill your players, and whether or not it's acceptable to choose not to kill your players or it's acceptable just to have death. You good, Fabio?
I'm
Anything
solid.
else? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Steve?
Death!
Kill them all. Kill them all. Kill them. Oh, shit, I dropped my water.
Is death always on the table, or is death sometimes on the table? So why don't I throw it over to my co-GMs. GM Fabio, where do you stand with death?
I like to kill them all. Kill them all.
Ivan
All of
Drago.
them. They die.
There it is. And GM Steve?
I think death should always be on the table. Otherwise, people get too complacent.
Oh, okay. I usually am the odd man out in the sense of I am like pro the most extreme topic. It's like, should you like have players get like launched into space? I'm like, yes, all the time, every time.
Yes, that too.
Yeah. On this one, I'm actually anti-death, but I'm going to put an asterisk on my statement. So I am anti-death, like it's not worth it. So in our current campaign, there are things called howlers, just wandering monsters. There are minion monsters for the most part, right? 1 hit point, very simple to kill. I throw like 60, 70 of them at you guys to make it seem like there's a large number. And you guys like fight them. You guys will sit there and be like, all right, we're going to go through 60.
Grind it out.
Yeah, we're just going to grind through these guys. I'm not going to let the howlers win. Like, there'll never be a point where the howlers just overwhelm you and then kill you outright. Because in my head, that's just a whack death. That's like Shakespearean Macbeth whack deaths, where they're just like, you're on the screen and the guy just like takes an arrow to the chest and goes down. I understand death is pervasive in the real world. I feel if you're playing tabletop role-playing games, you're trying to escape the real world, and escapism is the excuse as to why I say death shouldn't be on the table always. And then that's the asterisk. It's not always. It's when it is called for. So I like to put the quotations, the boss battles, right? So fucking Smog shows up. And that's the moment the player should be like, oh, I can't die. And Smog just breathes fire, right? Like, so maybe this player is an asshole and figured out like the GM's not going to kill us. And the player is just like, doo, 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 doo. And then Smog just goes, smash, dead.
Got him.
And then all of a sudden, like that changes the game. Now I know already, I could see the chats on the bottom of this YouTube video. People were like, that's not fair. You didn't warn them, blah, blah, blah. I'd be mad. I'd be tight, blah, blah, blah. XYZ. You should be. Because if you're playing the game and you think you have this like freedom to walk all over me because I'm being polite, you should understand that's my asterisk. I'm not going to sit there and tell my players that, right? Like I never told you guys that, but that's my asterisk. I don't understand where do you guys stand with death? Where do you guys stand on this topic of like murder?
So I'm kind of in between the two, right? So when we first talked about this topic, kind of before we started recording, the idea was like whether death should be on the table or not. So how I perceive death being on the table is death is always a potential, right? That's how in my head it is. But I'm also not going to be like, okay, someone roll a d20. Right, just anyone roll a d20. Someone roll a d20. You know, your characters,
11.
you guys, you just got out of the bar, and what was the number?
11.
11. Okay. So you walk outside the bar and you failed your reflex save because the reflex was like 35. By the way, your first level character, your reflex save was supposed to be a 35. You failed. You trip and the horse comes in and steps on your head and you're dead. I'm not going to do that, right? That's something where we're not going to be doing stuff like that. That's kind of like hilariousness and kind of like maybe joking or something like that. But
write this shit down.
I'm not going to be like, you walk out of the you just got your quest, you walk out of the bar, you should fall and die. Like that's not something that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there's a couple of things that I have in my head as like a checklist. Number one, obviously, always boss battles is always like a thing. And even a regular like set of goblins, even if you're just fighting regular goblins, things can just go bad. Yet again, we're also dealing with die rolls. We're all dealing with these, dice. We always deal with all these fucking dice. So in worst case scenario, the Ginyu force of goblins could come out and start wrecking shop. At some point, the players always have the option of saying, okay, I think this is bad. Let's run away. If you choose to stay, you choose it, that you've made that choice. So the eyes DM are like, okay, well, I see you made your choice. You're going to fight and you think you can win. But that means there has to be a consequence to that. And yeah, also the other thing is there's something infinitely stupid. You do something infinitely stupid, like I'm going to leap off a 1,000-foot cliff, dive into the ocean, like do some impossible thing. And I like a warrior, like, look, what you're asking for is impossible. I'm not gonna let you do that, and you do it anyway. You're dead. I mean, there's no way.
You might not make it. John's got a question.
It's more of a. I'm going to interject. Steve, that was a read from Steve on me.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday, you motherfucker.
What?
You guys, both you motherfuckers did that shit.
Yes,
we rolled
100%.
We both rolled nat 20s though, so. I didn't expect that. I was just like, oh, I guess this is how Henny dies.
Yeah, I honestly thought the same thing.
I got enough bonuses. I might make it. We'll see what I got advantage. Like, would I go for it? Fabio says yes. Would Henny go for it? Henny says yes. Right. And I think we can use that caveat into like how I perceive death in games. Listen, I feel in games, there are a lot of different ways where you can play smart. You can use the mechanics of the games to your advantage, right? And there's a lot of things with items, teamwork. There are a lot of different things that you can put in a game to basically make it so that your players may not live forever, but it minimizes the chance of death. And whenever I play games, I like to give my players as many tools as they can to survive. But because I give them as many tools that they can have to, keep themselves alive, keep their friends alive, it's not that I'm out to kill you. If you die, you die. I will make sure that like you have just as many health pots as you need, as many pieces of escape ropes, portable holes, backpacks, whatever it is. I even made like a version of a Phoenix down for my characters that basically makes it so like you drink it and you get a full night's rest, right? And it's dope. And people are just like, oh man, I get my spells back. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to throw crazy things at you. I want you to feel strong, but I also want you to feel challenged. And I feel sometimes when a lot of the challenge comes with the fear of death, right? A lot of the times you'll play these games and feel like, oh, I may not be like super strong, but if you're super strong, but the thing's also hitting you for half your HP, that means you got to play smart, right? Playing smart, using teamwork, using all these things will help you out in your quest. They will make sure that you can save the princess, or you can kill the king, or you can slay the dragon, whatever, and steal his hoard. But if you do it all wrong, the princess will put you in a headlock and kill you. The king will send his entire army after you. And the dragon will basically, use you as his new toothbrush, right? Whatever it's going to be, these things will happen. And I won't just outright kill people. I don't have vendettas against my players 9 times out of 10. There will always be that one player that does something really dumb. But if you do something really dumb, you kill yourself. Right, that's my general rule is I want you to survive. I want my players to win because I want to see where their stories go. But at the same time, if you roll 5 ones in a row and you don't use the items that you have, the game says that you die. It's not Fabio, the DM. The game says that you die. And then I like to make it where we can wrap it up into the story. People understand, like, maybe you go out like a G or whatever it is. Right. But I won't just say, oh, you walk through and a stone falls on your head, and it just hits you right at the perfect angle in the soft spot and you go to sleep forever. I'm not going to do that to you. But if you dive off, something and a boulder's coming down and you're like, you know what, I can outpace the boulder and the boulder gets you, And that's it. You know, it's game over.
I will say that during the thing that we did last night, the game we just streamed, if what we tried failed and either your character or my character died, would you have been mad?
No.
Absolutely not. I expected that if I rolled badly, that my character was going to plummet to his death.
Yeah.
So
Jared knows
the
me
other thing
very well. I looked at him. I was like, I'm going out to save her. And he gives it up like, you might die. I was like, I accept my fate. Like, if you ever watch it, there's times where I will look at Jared, I'll look at Steve, I'll look at people, anybody that knows me, I'll say, you know what? Bet. If you ever see me go, bet, I'm ready to do something dumb, and I'm already creating a new character just in case. I was like, I don't want to die. I love all of my characters, but I accept my fate.
And then it matters, like, when you're talking about, like, is this something reckless? Yes. But it's also, I'm doing it because I think that in the story, like, my character would potentially think this is a course of action, right? It's not something. Now, there's something different between doing something stupid and doing something reckless. Something reckless could also be stupid, but and this thing is like, we're doing some crazy stunt to number one, make things look cool, and number two, to accomplish a goal. We're not just doing something stupid for stupid's sake. So, but we're willing to accept. A player should, at that point, accept the risk of reckless equals a consequence if you're not successful.
That is true. I've rolled ones on doing something that, this is going to be dope. Rolled a 1. I rolled a 1. You're like, oh, man. And now I was like, all right, tell me how bad it is. Because now I'm curious. I'm like,
that's the fun part.
I don't want my character to die, but all right, make it good, though. You know, like, make me go out and an awesome. We had when you were saying something before, Boromir from Lord of the Rings. A lot of people don't like how he died. I love how he died. Out of all the people in Lord of the Rings, right, when there was where there's a death or there's like a sacrifice, my man took multiple arrows to the chest, became a pinfoot cushion, but killed almost every orc that ran on him, except for the one that took a shot at point blank range. That's fine. I would accept my fate. I killed everybody else. Cool. I'm happy.
Is there a grace period in your campaigns for death? Or is it on the table at jump? Like, start the game. Let's use the Rise of the Runelords, right? We've played that a number of times. It's a very popular campaign in Pathfinder First Edition. If you haven't played, or even like Lost Mines of Felden Delver, it's a very similar thing. You get attacked by goblins, right? Your generic goblin assault. Both of these campaigns are your introduction campaigns, and it's the first thing that happens in the campaign. And let's say you have a number of negative rolls, bad rolls on the player, and great rolls on the GM side, meaning multiple crits, multiple just amazing. Okay, I rolled a D8, I got 8 on that. That's rough, right? Like at early levels.
But he's catching it.
Is death on the table at that point?
So you're saying for like level 1?
Like I said, like in Lost Mines of Phandelver, you start the campaign, you're on the carriage, the horseback, you see the downed horse, and you get attacked by the goblin scrimmage archers, right? Same thing with Rise of the Runelords. You're in the festival, goblin attack, right? Mm-hmm. And this is literally like the first initiative of the game is death on the table. Because in that situation, you just started the campaign and then boom, someone goes down hard. Are you going to, are you going to be like, all right, maybe they failed their death saving throws? Are you going to be like, all right, you're dead, roll up a new dude? Or are you going to be like, oh, you're going down and like, so like a pixie or a fairy dragon saves your life or something, like whatever. You make you fade to black and you just were knocked out, right? Like you wake up in the Poke Center and Nurse Joy is like, yo, what happened? You fainted. All your Pokemon. You lost all your Pokemon.
Just pass out and wake up like, why are you here? What happened to you?
My perception, it for me, context matters. So are we dealing with a brand new group of players? No one's experienced and never played D&D before, so they don't know that and especially if it's more, and I'm not trying to like age shame people, but if it's not people our age, right? If it's new players who haven't really ever played a role-playing game before, and their real only stint into games like this is video games. Video games make you feel powerful right out the gate. for the most part. Almost every single video game makes you feel like you can just kind of murder your way through because it's the beginning level, right? RPGs, D&D, Pathfinder, any really system like this, it's a little bit of a different beast. So if I'm walking into it knowing that my players are completely inexperienced on the fact that they literally can do anything, where just because the rules don't say I can pick up that tree and huck it at somebody, right? That means I can just walk away. That's not an option for them. Not that it's not an option for them, but they won't think that's as an option. So I will walk them through, hey, you can kind of do this or this. And then if things go bad, obviously you don't want to be like, we just spent an hour and a half getting ready for this game. All your characters are dead, right? Okay, they're going to leave it. They're not going to enjoy it and they're not going to play anymore.
True.
The veteran group, they're going to have these options. They're going to know. So yet again, and also, did the player do something to put them in that position? So it's a lot of different checks for me to say like, okay, well, you kind of had guys had a good strategy and just the die rolls were just bad. And this kind of goes into an altered topic, which we may bring up now, we might bring up later, is fudging die rolls. This is something that a GM can do. If I feel that if death isn't on the table right now, like this is just the intro battle and this is just to get your feet wet into the game, that goblin didn't crit, he just hit you. And I rolled an 8 plus 5. I'm not doing 13 damage to the wizard, right? That's no. You take 4 damage, So yet again, it's when to fudge and when not to fudge. If I'm taking death off the table, I still have to make it convincing to everyone else that death is on the table. But the whole point is the players never know that.
Gotcha. I think for me, there's parts that I definitely agree with Steve, where it's if you're brand new to the game, I'm not going to try to outright kill you. And it's not that I'll fudge rolls, but I will definitely put things in there where it's like, oh, maybe you hit the goblin and it looks like a potion fell out of his pocket and somebody else is down. Hey, there's a nudge. I'm gonna nudge you in the direction to save people, right? If I crit you, I crit you. Just like if you crit any of my characters, any of my monsters, any of my NPCs, you crit them. The option's always there. Like, I don't want to make it so like, hey, there's a fireball that basically hits everyone and it TPKs them on level 2, right? That's a possibility, right? But I'm not going to probably put them in a situation like that if they're brand new. I might tweak some of the situations. I might alter some of the spells. I might, do certain things. But if you're a veteran, I will counterspell a heal real fast and ruin your whole day, right? And anybody that says like, oh, counterspelling heals is mean. Yes, it is mean. And if you've been playing the game for a very long time, you should always think that it's a possibility, right? And these are things that I'll use to veterans players. But if you're brand new, I won't counterspell a heal, but I will keep hitting your healer. You better do something to like protect them. If it's a goblin fight, one goblin might have a potion of healing, right? Or like some salve of, rejuvenation or something that might help you. Or I'll point it out if somebody doesn't know, like, hey, this is down just so you can use an action to try and stabilize them so they stop from dying, right? Let them know and remind them what the rules are. Because sometimes they'll look at the situation and like semi-panic because they don't know. And if you don't know, let me give you the tools so that you can make better decisions when moving forward. Also, when situations like this arise again. But if everybody rolls crits, if I roll 5 nat 20s in a row, I'm like, yo, this was a dope game. All right, we're going to do a hard reset, right? And then do it again. Like you can keep your characters, but everybody got burks. Fabio has 1, everybody's got 0. Start from there. And then the game starts over, But I will kill you. I don't want to. It's not my goal. I don't have, bloodlust most of the time, right? As a player, yes. As a player, bloodlust always, all day, every day, right? But as the DM, I want to see the story unfold. So messing up people that are brand new is not fun. Messing up veterans is a lot of fun.
Now I'm going to say this, and again, it's a controversial topic or a statement I'm about to say. It has been stated a number of times that Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is really hard to kill characters. And I feel additionally talking about that in Pathfinder 2nd edition, it's much easier to kill characters. With that being said, I don't think I don't think these two topics kind of go together, but I feel they do. With that being said, do you use intelligent tactics on your monsters that can cause death? So I know as a so I know as a GM that Fabio goes down. Let's say we're playing 5th edition. I walk up to his character as a goblin, and I spend my action to attack. That's an automatic crit, deals 2 fail saves, and then his turn comes around. Let's say he rolls up 15, passes 1. My next turn, goblin stabs again, 2 fails. I now killed Fabio's character. Right? Can GM's metagame in that situation, or am I now taking it to a new level of death, right? Like that's a new level of death where now the monsters have this like weird knowledge of like all of a sudden like I need to hit Fabio's character like 5 times to kill his character. Go ahead, Fabio.
I don't believe in coup de grace from NPCs, right? But, and this is my little asterisk in the corner. If you get eaten by something, that's different, right? If you get devoured by a T-Rex or an OTU swallows you or something like that, that's coup de grace by accident. You know, that's just the name of the game. Will my orcs go out of their way to stab somebody that's on the ground? Probably not. They want to just keep killing everything that's in front of them. Will a lich probably stab somebody that's next to him? Probably not. You know, they got other things on their mind, right? Will the vampire do it? Maybe. Like if it's within the realm of like the vampire is going to try and drain you dry to heal himself, maybe that's a possibility, right? But the outright say like, yo, my goblins are going to just start stabbing anybody that goes down and just like, you know, just fill them up with like knife wounds. No, I'm not going to do that. To me, that's not fun. I feel like you're already in panic mode because you're down, right? So for the most part, I kind of leave that alone. And if everybody goes down, everybody goes down. That's more or less it. But I don't really make them do coup de grace or specific tactics that will kill them unless it's something that they have built into the character themselves. Like, you know, there's certain characters, like if it brings you to 0, you turn into like a white. Well, I forget which. I think whites do that, right? If it brings you to 0, it can turn you into another white.
Or shadows, I think, for strength damage, yeah,
it's one of them, right? So I'm like, if that, I don't want to see that happen, but at the same time, I want to see that happen. But I won't do it as like my first move of somebody goes down, I got to kill him, you know, and bring him completely out.
So to Fabio's point, I kind of ride the middle of that. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to, the moment you're down, I'm going to like that one goblin is immediately just going to murk your character and kill you outright. But a couple of things. I will generally, if I'm trying to run a game like a longer style game where you're searching after a bad guy, so you're constantly chasing after and trying to stop them from doing bad stuff. At some point, I'm going to like, hopefully you leave clues and hopefully you're going to be making some checks to like discover information about it. If the bad guy's intelligent, the bad guy's intelligent. I will always consider the intelligence of the monster. So the zombie is not going to care. He's not going to try to think tactically. He's not going to try to flank. And he's not going to try to use abilities and counter like, well, I know that the wizard casts spells, so I'm going to walk next to, like, it's like a zombie's not going to think that. An undead, a non-intelligent undead is not going to think that way. An animal is not going to think that way. But the vampire will. Right, but or even the lich. I would disagree with Fabio. Like the lich may consider it. Like this, it may not be the first option, but it definitely be like, let me think about this for a second. And especially if the cleric is or whoever healing potential the group has is constantly bringing people back up to keep fighting, and like you keep bringing the barbarian back, the barbarian goes down. The barbarian may be dead because that's my next move is to kill the barbarian because now you can't bring him back right now, at least, So I will always consider the story as a whole as, did I intend this fight to be that lethal? Right, there may be some fights, and I maybe even let the party know to somebody like, you should know at this point, given all the information you know, that this is you win and you survive, and the bad guy's most likely dead, or the bad guy's alive and you are most likely dead. or you retreat in some way, right? There's there's no like you agree to disagree and you both go your separate ways, all happy forever after. No. You're not tricking the evil cleric of the Norberger just to decide to go. Nah, I think you're right. I think I'm going to switch sides. That ain't gonna happen. So I wasn't consider the intelligence of the bad guy. Also, how the battle unfolded. Like I said, it's never going to be my first option to be like, okay, I dropped you. Now I'm going to probably move on to the next target. But if that bringing back up or kind of coming back from being downed becomes a problem, just as the players be like, okay, well, that one monster is a problem, or that one spellcaster over there is a problem, the monsters have the same right if I feel that they're intelligent enough.
Fair enough. I know I've been I've done dickish moves where like I've seen people go down and I was like, my goblin kicks you in the head. And that's an attack and like you take 2 death saves. And then people are like, I'm like, the goblin kicked you in the head. Like I'll never just be like, oh, the goblin kicks you in the head to give you 2 deaths. I'll be like, the goblin was mad, you killed 2 of his friends, you went down, and then like out of frustration, he kicks you in the head. To be like a dick. I know I shouldn't do it like that. But like, is that really something bad, right? Like, am I role playing it? Can the role play really balance out the ridiculousness of that situation? I guess that kind of ties into my next topic, right? And still talking about death and how death should have a meaning, can have a meaning. This is a very quick 2-parter. The first half I feel is going to be very fast to just kind of like bang out yes, no, no's, right? In one shots, how hard do you go? Like, are like, is it like, oh, this is a one shot, I'm about to drop nukes? Like, we are now fighting Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and Muhammad Ali all at the same time. Go. Or is
they're
it
all
like
fused together?
Yeah, they just like
bombs for hands.
Yeah, and they have like fucking like they became like Goro with like multiple arms, and they just are just wrecking house. Or are you like, all right, we're gonna like kind of play it out, and like you keep it at like your normal tempo? So that's my first question, and then my second question is, at what level would you allow resurrections, and would you even consider resurrections, or is it better to allow the death to sit as a death and then like kind of let that lead your characters into maybe more role play? Or would you allow resurrections, right? Like, let's say my character died, right? And now Fabio and Steve are very sad, and they're gonna seek out the cleric or this ancient druidess in the woods. And as they're going, they meet, Twinkle Toes, my halfling, because I don't want to sit out the game, right? Like, I don't want to sit out the game. So I make Twinkle Toes, and Twinkle Toes is now on this adventure with Fabio and Steve's character, following them along to resurrect my character. Or do you rush the resurrection and say, oh, you get back to town, and there just so happens to be a wandering cleric, and your character can now come back, and now that makes death meaningless, right? Like, I feel that makes death meaningless. So that's why I say I'm always a little bit more hesitant to kill characters, because I'm less likely, and I'll say this right now, I'm super less likely. I'm the one, and I guess this is me on like the opposite end of that spectrum, because I make that less dangerous, right? Like, it will show up, but it's not like every encounter or everything. But because I'm like that, you will never meet that wandering priestess to resurrect you. So that's my 2-part question. The one shot, how hard do you go? Second half, resurrection and death in your game.
I'll go for it. So with one shots, it depends on like who I'm with, but I'll say this: the last one shot I ran with you guys that we put on air, I killed Tina, right? And it wasn't that it's like, oh, I killed her. It was like, listen, there was a void on the bottom of the floor, and the tiles were falling, right? And I give you as many chances as you can to try and save her, and didn't roll high enough, and she ended up falling into the void of oblivion, right? And there's no roving cleric or anything. You're done, right? You no longer exist. You need wish or a god's magic to bring you back. That's it, right? I don't do that just, like, it's no, I want, it's in a one shot, if it's the way that it was set up, you want it to ramp up to a point where at the end you're fighting the final boss and everything's at its peak, and there's a possibility that you can die and it could be over from here. Maybe if not for everyone, for at least a couple people, and at least in that one shot, be like, oh, we had a great time. Oh, it sucks that so and so died, but we did it. Or man, we were so close. We want to run it again. We want to try something different. Or I want to try a different character. Right? Because then they know that it's like, hey, it was very challenging and it didn't make it, but they had fun throughout the game. So when it comes down to like one shots, if it's brand new, I try not to, right? Or at least I'll put certain things that are like, maybe they'll get a couple extra healing pots than they're supposed to have. But then that's about it. But people will go down. People will go down unless everybody rolls perfectly or I roll absolute trash, right? People will go down by the end of the campaign, right? Or at least the end of the one shot. And that's what it is. For the other question, when it comes to death, for me, it's not that I don't like to have like priests or places where you can resurrect things or people. It's you gotta find it. Like I honestly gonna say, if somebody dies and you're not by a city, or at least by someplace where there's like some type of church, you gotta find it. You're gonna be going out of your way trying to either find this temple or somebody that can do a ritual, or I forget whether it's 300, 500, or 1,000 cost gem or something to get somebody back and somebody able to cast the spell of resurrection. Something has to happen, and in itself, it's going to be a mini quest. Like it may slightly railroad the characters off if that's something that they want to do. If they want to, spend effort into resurrecting a character, then they understand they're like, man, this is not going to be easy. It's going to be a quest in itself, right? But to say like, oh, when is that an option? It's like, well, if you can afford 1,000 gold at level 3, you can afford 1,000 gold at level 3, right? But you got to figure out how to get that money, whether it's you got to lie, cheat, steal, or shake your ass. I don't care how you do it, but you got to figure it out. But I like to at least give the option there. If everybody dies, we start over. But there's going to be ways to get your character back, but it will be its own journey.
So on the first part of your question of how difficult do I tend to have one-shots, I tend to run one-shots for at least Pathfinder at a slightly higher level. I know that D&D was considered higher level, and Pathfinder it's a little different, even though they use a very similar system and levels. I normally will have like a level 5 or a level 8 or 9 almost one shots, and because I know everyone's playing a brand new character, because like we playing long form campaigns, this is like the second and a half of one that we're doing right now, rip Agents of Edgewash. But so when I'm running a one shot, I know that you're not as familiar with your character as any one of us would be when we're playing long form campaign, because I've been playing that character since the level 1 level. Say we even started this current campaign at level 3, but we played all of level 3, level 4, level 5. We had many sessions to learn and how to go, oh, I know how to play this character now. Well, in a one shot, you may be playing something that's completely foreign to you, or even then, you may be playing something you haven't played in a while. Like, oh man, I love playing paladins, but I was playing the wizards for like the last 3 different games I've been playing because I was just having so much fun. Oh man, paladin? I forgot how to play the paladin. So you're familiar with it, but still, you're jumping from like level nothing because you're just making a character straight to level 5 or straight to level 8. It's going to be unfamiliar to you. So I tend to slowly encroach the difficulty up. Right. So I'll get a slow ramp up to where the first fight is just going to be you win. Right. I'm not going to let you win, but you're just going to I'm not going to test you too hard. And you'll be like, oh, now I'm getting the wheels are starting to turn in. The rust is going to start coming off, and then a little more difficult. And then I'm going to start not pulling punches. And then the boss fight's going to happen. And then now it's, whoever's left standing wins. On the second question, I've run more one shots than anything else for us here, but I watch a lot of different content creators about even similar things like what we're doing here, where they just talk about concepts or different games. I've always wanted to introduce the idea of like low level characters having known a higher level character. And and the high level characters trying to mentor the newbies because they don't want to deal with the goblins. Like the level 8 cleric, when the level 1 party comes in, they don't want to deal with the goblins. They get much more important shit to deal with. Sure. So they're not going to want to have to go and, goddamn, the goblin. Like I could literally like blink my eyes. They flash like blinding white light and literally is like a crater, right? I could do that, but I could use that spell to do some other cool shit that I need to do. Or like the barbarian flexes a muscle and like a mountain explodes. Like, he could do that, but he's got more important things to do. So the idea of like them like mentoring high level character and then maybe beckoning for like every once in a while, I'm like, man, we got it over our heads. We need a little help. So the high level character, I mean, it's not a gimme, but the high level character be like, okay, well, I see you did it. Like, you did a whole bunch of good stuff. Okay, I'll help you out this time. But then at some later date, the high level characters be like, now I need help. Or I'm not going to help you unless you do this thing for me. So it's already like a built-in quest where they don't have to find this person. They already had a relationship. So they are already kind of becoming friends and getting sort of like an interaction with this character over just them playing the regular adventure, which this person could have been a retired adventurer. It's all what your story is. And so you can pull it in that way, or you could make it a quest, or sometimes death is just permanent. It's okay to let that death sit. It's never like, oh, we have to fix this right now. Sometimes it also depends on maybe the player is okay with how that character ended. It's all up to like how the consensus of everyone is. So it's entirely possible where that barbarian he's got to stand there and hold the line and everyone else can escape. Or the wizard's got to hold that wall of force up and he's the only one, right? No one else has got anything left. And the wizard's like, I gotta keep this up or we all die, right? And then the character, the player may be okay, but like, it sucks that my character died, but it was an epic way of going out.
Bruce.
So before we kind of like put things out ahead, one of the topics I want to ask and kind of like see how everyone does this and maybe spark a conversation in the comments below. But how do you handle death? Like, is it cinematic or is it just dice play? Right? Like, do you just like, okay, goblin hit you 7 points damage, you go down? Or is it like, all right, like Fabio brought up, like Boromir, right? Like standing there and he shot up with the arrows, and then it's like, I stabbed this goblin, and then I stabbed this goblin, and then the big Urkai or whatever walks up and just like point blank puts the bow on your chest and just pop, because you're already standing there, looking like a pincushion. So how do you handle it? I feel like there's a lot of different ways to handle this. So why don't I toss it over to Fabio? Fabio, I feel like you already brought it up. You kind of had the knowledge. You started this. You laid the brickwork here. So why don't you build your house?
Sure. For me, if I know somebody's going down, like I know they had 3 HP and I just hit you for 30, I'm like, well, this is what happened. The assassin rolls up on you, flips the dagger in his hand, goes for a high slash. You're able to block it, but realize it was a feint. And instead it goes right into your kidney, twists the blade, you go down, right? And you bleed out, right? I want to make the deaths epic. Sometimes I want to have people give a final word, have that moment of like grandeur where, it's cool. They have this moment embedded in their mind of how their character went out. In addition, if I know certain things are going south, right, and maybe we pause the campaign or like we're ending the session for the evening, right, I'll have the conversation with the player afterwards. Make sure that they're cool with the situation, see how they want to proceed moving forward. Whether they want to be like, oh, do you really want to try and get your character back? You can maybe beseech the party to try and find a way to bring you back, or whether it's you can have your final phrase of this is what you're going to say to everyone, and these are your last words, right? It's always like a piece of, I want you to be happy with what happens, even though you may not be happy with what's happening. I want you to be able to accept the fact that your character's dead, get whatever last words you want out, and have that cinematic moment of, yeah, my character went out in an awesome way, you know? And then it's just easier for the character, for people to take, PCs to take. It's easier for everybody to roll with. And if they want to do something about it, maybe they can. And if they don't, they're at least happy with how it ended.
Building off of what Fabio said, in the idea of like, what can you do if you know your character's going to die? So a little conversation off camera happened, and we were talking about whether death saving throws ruin the moment for having a cinematic death. So there's a couple ways your character can die, right? You can technically die outside of the rules. I use air quotes all the time. I apologize. So be like, okay, well, like, let's go bring back the thing where like the wizard is like, I got to hold the line. There's nothing that like, if I don't do X, we all, the result is Y. We all die. Right. So I'm willingly, like me as this character, willingly saying, I will sacrifice my character for the sake of everyone else escaping. Right. Now, the DM could like immediately just take over the cinematic and say, okay, well, maybe you're not done, maybe you're getting captured, but whatever. Let's assume that for the fact that it's like, it's like everyone is under the standing that you were going to die. Let the character do cool stuff. Limit it, but let the character do cool stuff. Like the whole like, you shall not pass. You know, all of a sudden, 1,000 goblins explode, but there's like 1 million more coming. Like there's no, but like let them do some cool epic shit, right? Or like you see, like as the barbarian is like this. 2 axes covered in gore, and like the one character looks back, and you just see heads of goblins just flying. He's just going nuts, right? Let the character have that moment. Give them like a turn, right? Give them a free turn or something like that. You know, you don't want to obviously have this thing going for like 4 hours, right? You don't want this thing to take too long, but have them if the character knows they're going out and the character probably knows that their character is not coming. You generally don't. I wouldn't suggest this if you know the character is not coming back. Right? If you're basically saying, use the DM saying there's an impossibility of the character being resurrected or brought back in any way. This is the one huzzah of that character. This is them going out in style. And you could do that. You could still do this with death saving throws. You know, yet again, we also live in a fantasy game. At the moment that, because yet again, not all death is immediate. So the death saving throw allows the other characters to do something to bring that character back. Now, whether the goblin, drops you down and then immediately auto crits you, so you have 2 death saving throws and now it's your turn. Like, this is one of the reasons why D&D is a little rough when it comes to the death saving throws, and how Pathfinder takes a different tack when we talk about the system. But the fact that death saving throws allow in either system, and other systems probably as well, death saving throws allow the other players who are not dead or dying to bring that character back up. So if you don't want death to be automatic, then you want to still allow death saving throws or whatever the dying mechanic in your game is, just so dying, yet again, we were talking about things you don't like to have characters die, so that mechanic aids in the fact that there's time. In most cases, there's time for the other players or something else to happen where maybe the fight was almost over and only needed that one more hit. And we're not going to keep making, for the most part, we don't generally, once combat is over, we don't generally keep making people, there's enough time where the player's like, oh, I stabilized you, or here's a potion or magic. So you could still have, like, if they couldn't get to you, or the bad guy who's knowingly that you're going to get up next turn because the cleric is like 2 steps behind him, and it goes right. So like you could even say like have the player in that moment do cool stuff. Like especially in this case of divine casters, it's really easy. All of a sudden they start shining with the light of their god, and then they were able to do one cool thing where, what was the from Shadows of Mordor? He holds the hand on the orc and he's like, he just attacks his mind. Or, let the player do a cool thing if they know they're going out. But in my head, they generally I'll only allow a player to do this if I know the character is not coming back. The characters come back. If we're like 15th level and my character just died, and like 15 minutes later we're like we're teleporting back to town because teleport, and then we're just like magic, you're fine. You don't need an epic moment for that. The epic moment was you all survived the fight, right? So that's where a way you can do it, even though that technically is you were unconscious. Let them have the cool moment. that doesn't matter. Like let's break the rule, because the cinematic moment is not even in the rules anyway. So let the explosion of your character be like the epic.
All right. And I'm just now going to throw it back over to Fabio, and I'm not because I Kanye West him right there. I was like, I'm going to let you talk, but now I'm going to throw it over to Steve because I Kanye West him. If you get that reference, you're an old man or an old human being.
Sadly, I don't get the reference.
We all got that reference.
I did not get that reference.
Not Steve.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but it's all good.
It's all good. We love you, Steve. So Fabio, cinematic death saving throws. Do you feel like I feel like you know the point Steve's making is like allow them to have that. I just think that's weird because like you're kind of fucking with time. So for me, I like to like no death saving throws. You hit 0, you go down. You get 1 turn to figure your life out, and then that's it. So Fabio, where do you stand like death saving throws?
No, but honestly, it's I actually agree with Steve, completely for the most part. A lot of the times whenever I've done the cinematic for people and I know certain things are going down, it's because I know something bad's about to happen. Like they failed their 3rd save, and you know what? Maybe I do the like you get up and you throw out one more spell that like maybe saves somebody, or like I'll text them and be like, hey, this is what happens. What do you want to do? Right? Because they can either say something cool, or they can like throw out one last spell that takes their last bit of life energy. They turn into a lifeless husk, stuck into like a statuesque, pose of like them like throwing out a fireball, right? Or they get like they're bleeding from the inside. They're literally holding their organs out. They lunge out and get one more stab in before going down in like a heap of blood and maybe taking, one random bad guy out with them, or doing like a critical bit of damage on, whatever it is that they're doing, right? The death save is easy. If I know you're dead, like, all right, cool, and everything's still moving, I'm gonna text you. What do you want to do? You want to say something? You want something cool to happen? Or, like now's the chance. If it's 3 strikes and you're out, listen, you get to at least say something before the camera pans off of you, right? And that's the way that I run it, like for the most part. If, death saves they're there to try to get your team to get you back up, right? But if all of them are exhausted, I at least want you to be okay with the end result.
I kind of feel like we've kind of had a solid conversation about death. I'm again the odd man out. I am anti-death when it doesn't like my death has to have a certain level of meaning. I'm not gonna like just like in a random encounter or something. Death. Fabio and Steve are death is always on the table. I feel like that's fine. We had a conversation about like cinematics. So why don't you tell us in the comments below, like where you stand on death, how it's been played in your game, how you use death. Do you not play with death? I know certain GMs don't play with death. They just want to tell a cohesive story and stuff like that. So tell us in the comments below. Obviously, I have to shill for the subs. If you could do that, that's solid. Please sub. But it's like 97% of you aren't subbed. It's all non-subbed people are watching our stuff. So if 97% of you can sub, we would get more subs, and then YouTube
and we can make more content that you like watching.
With that being said, we are Nothing Venture, Nothing Game, rolling dice, giving advice with a little bit of that New York spice. Say goodnight, everyone.
Later.